Hi, I'm Joe Burgo, and in this video I'm going to talk about shame. It's a subject I write about a lot on my website. So, when people hear the word shame, they usually think of something like shaming messages from their parents, or maybe being humiliated or made to feel bad by another important adult in your life, like a teacher or a priest. That's an important kind of shame, but in my practice I've come to understand that there's a different, more fundamental kind of shame. I call it basic shame, and I think of it as a painful awareness at the deepest level of our being that our development through childhood went seriously wrong, and that as a result, we've been permanently damaged at our core. The way I see it, basic shame takes root in the earliest months of life, before language or verbal thought have started, before we can really think about our experience and what it means. It grows in the soil of failed attachment, of physical and emotional trauma, of parenting with minimal love or empathy. Then as we continue through childhood, basic shame spreads and distorts everything. It defines our characters and our defensive strategies for coping with pain, our relationships. Because we feel at the deepest level of our being that we're defective, basic shame is an existential pain that colors everything about us and the way we feel in the world. When people come to me for psychotherapy, they rarely talk about this kind of shame. They don't realize that they feel it. It's unconscious. Instead, it tends to show up in a couple of different ways. First, in the dreams they bring to session, and then in the typical defenses they use to ward off the painful awareness of their shame. Sometimes their dreams might have an architectural reference. Part of the action could take place in a ramshackle abandoned hut, or in a dirty old house with decaying rooms. A burnt-out car might appear somewhere in the imagery. Often the dreams include people who are smelly, ugly, or repulsive, not necessarily the dreamer, but some other character. It could be a homeless person or a cripple, for instance. Sometimes there's an abandoned infant who has become grotesque with neglect, or other children with hideous birth defects. All these dream images convey the sense of a self that is broken, damaged, and beyond repair. In my experience, when people feel broken in this way, they typically take flight into a false self, an idealized false self that's the polar opposite of the damaged, shame-ridden self, and is meant to disguise or disprove it. When the defense succeeds, that is, when we're able to deceive ourselves and believe in that ideal self, then we're in the realm of narcissism or mania. I find it very hard to help narcissistic patients face their shame. Usually when they come for therapy, what they really want instead is help in becoming that ideal self, rather than in facing their damage and all the shame they feel about it. Last year, when I was beginning to write about this subject on my website, I saw a film that perfectly captures this flight from a damaged, crippled self into another persona altogether, a superior being that disproves all that damage. This film doesn't offer a straightforward psychological profile like Limitless, which I used in my video about bipolar disorder, or The Social Network, which I used in my video about narcissistic personality disorder. Instead, Avatar, the science fantasy epic by James Cameron, gives us something more like a myth, the way that the story of Narcissus, the Greek youth who fell in love with his own reflection, gave Sigmund Freud a myth around which to build his discussion of narcissism. At the opening of Avatar, the hero, Jake Sully, has suffered a severe spinal cord injury that leaves him a paraplegic. He can't perform as a combat marine like he used to do, and the military won't pay for an operation to restore the use of his legs. So Jake feels worthless and adrift in his life, a cripple confined to a wheelchair. He volunteers for a specialized military mission to the planet Pandora, where he hopes to earn enough money for the needed operation. Through the miracle of medical technology, Jake learns to psychically link with and inhabit an avatar, or a different bodily self on that planet. Jake's avatar is a member of the Na'vi species. In stark contrast to his crippled self, this avatar is healthy, fit, and stands about 10 feet tall, with enormous physical prowess and sensory capabilities far beyond those of humans. Inhabiting this avatar not only lets Jake regain the functions he lost, but even to surpass his human potential. Through a psychic and physical link with a winged creature on the planet, he even learns to fly. Jake's new life on Pandora ultimately proves to be more real, more meaningful to him than his actual life. At the movie's end, he finds a way to transcend his human physical damage and move permanently to the realm of his superior Na'vi self. Jake's happy ending is a dream come true for anyone who suffers from basic shame. The chance to escape that damage forever and become an ideal new self. This dynamic lies at the heart of narcissism, and I'll have more to say about that in another video. Thanks for watching. Until next time.